Well, I can only go by statements made by the commander of the Mexican Armed Forces that it was a mission that was intelligence based. You have to understand the United States collects intelligence in Mexico all the time through the Drug Enforcement Administration, and we have a very deep cooperative intelligence, support activities to Mexico itself against these cartels. So none of this is surprising that we could pull up. I mean, that's how we got Pablo Escobar, by the way, right? DEA and U.S. Army intelligence, defense intelligence, actually carrying out pinpoint signals intelligence and man tracking with the Colombian Army and the Colombian intelligence agencies. We just give pointers, they have to do the ground execution. The killing of Cervantes, who was the head of a group called the cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, they are a hardcore militarized. When I say militarized, these guys drive around in F-250 armored personnel carriers that they've done themselves in all black kit, looking like a SWAT team. And they had thousands of men. And that the United States supported the Mexican operation. The commander himself said, hey, we do this combined as allies, but it's our target, our intelligence, our people. We do the mission planning, our mission. And so they carried out this mission and killed him. What that did was that unleashed a wave of subordinate violence. All of his junior lieutenants poured out into the streets and essentially had convinced themselves that they were Mexico, at least in Jalisco province, that they were the authorities and the power. And in some instances, it's true. I heard a phone call, that was intercepted by Mexican government of one of the drug lords' deputies calling a police checkpoint and saying, we own you and we're going to kill every one of you and your family if you do not get out of the way. And the police lifted the checkpoint. Well, unfortunately for them, Mexico has an army that is essentially oriented to counter drug warfare. They descended on the city of Puerto Vallarta, where all of the tourists who were there had been ordered to shelter in place. And they carried out a massive military sweep. Helicopters with miniguns, some of the more advanced counter drug and counter, SWAT units in Mexico. And they just had raging gun battles for at least 3 days. It appears to have been tamped down at this point, but it just goes to show the mindset of the drug cartels now is not, how can I put it? They honor each other in the way that Pablo Escobar was considered this hero. And, none of these guys, are looking out for their communities. They're looking out for their, retailers, the people who are making them money. And they get them with such a concentration of power, weapons, and the belief they have impunity that the murder of this one guy, taking out the Jalisco cartel, could really benefit them. Now, I do want to point some things out. Is it a question of the United States taking sides? Because the opposite side of that is the Sinaloa cartel. And President Trump just released the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of bringing 50 tons of cocaine into the United States for the Sinaloa cartel. About 6 months ago, the Trump administration brought in and gave amnesty to the families and residency of Sinaloa cartel members. It's quite possible we could have had one drug cartel feeding us intelligence to give us a major victory while essentially letting them operate freely and giving them, market dominance in Mexico. Now, you might say, Malcolm, that sounds entirely unrealistic. We would never do that knowingly. Well, someone will have to explain to me how a man that brought in 50 tons, I say 5,500 tons of cocaine into the United States, who said he wanted American citizens taking cocaine with their breakfast cereal. suddenly gets pardoned at the behest of the president of the United States. And then we have this massive operation going on down in Mexico. Could this unleash other animals that are happening, that are running cartels down there? Quite possibly. Then again, no one is going to conduct operations of this level where they're going to give the United States a bone without having some sort of guarantee. Maybe not in writing, but certainly maybe in communications or phone calls. Who knows? All I know is one problem solved, another problem is now the biggest market, the biggest dealer on the block.
Mm. And of course, there is a lot more going on with US involvement in Central and South America at the moment. An interesting side story to what went on in the raid on Venezuela's capital, Caracas, last month is that Anthropic, the company that owns Claude AI, appears to be in the middle of a sort of split from the US government after it's reportedly been revealed that their systems were used as part of that raid that captured Venezuelan President Maduro last month. What does this say about the use of these corporate AI systems in US defense?
Well, Elon Musk has proved that if you are, certainly have the ability to influence U.S. elections and put in a president of the United States that you want, then they are allowed to run rampant throughout the United States government and literally destroy massive components of all of America's soft power collected since 1945, then you're going to believe that you're owed something. And what Elon Musk is pushing now is that Grok AI replace all other AI systems in the United States government. Anthropic had two requirements for the use of its AI within U.S. intelligence community platforms. They're the AI system that the intelligence community uses that is top secret compartmented, right? They wanted their materials so that they would not be used, their intellectual property would not be used against American citizens to carry out activities that would violate the Constitution. Grok and Elon Musk have said, no, we don't have a problem with that. So the other was that they would not be used essentially for evil overseas. The Trump administration, at the behest, we all know that this is really coming from Elon Musk and the South African, four who run Silicon Valley, that they see the way to get rid of a competitor and to put Grok systems in there. Now, I just want to caution anyone who thinks, oh, well, this is just great. I have been an advocate that should the Democrats take the House of Representatives at the end in November of this year, and that a new president take power in 2029, who is a Democrat or someone who is not MAGA, that they need to nationalize all of these AI systems that do business for the United States government. They should not be allowed in the hands of private citizens. First off, we paid for them. We subsidized and built all of these systems. So unless they can repay us every penny plus the cost of neutralizing their intellectual property rights going into the future, we should just seize them, especially when they relate to national security. We know it's already been confirmed. Elon Musk stole the databases of every American citizen out there. That personal information, every facet of how they live is invaluable. It is megatons of platinum covered gold encrusted in diamonds with regards to the AI world. They need to understand that if they're not going to be playing nice now, well, they may be forced to play nice, or it's quite simple. The Democratic Party is looking to cut off all of their funding. They hold the purse in the United States, and they could find themselves next January as a primary line one item that all of the monies Elon Musk has ever been given to the United States is either returned, not in stock, in cash, or that that all of the assets they developed with the United States government will become the property of the United States government. So I would hope that they could play nice. But right now, we are in a dog eat dog world where Elon Musk thinks he owns the president of the United States. And I think Anthropic could probably hold out through next year because this is not something you do with just a flash memory and put into the system. Every person has to be retrained on how to use and prompt these things. You don't just ask it a question and get out top secret answers that break down all the compartmentation.